What's up, guys, and welcome to another Monster Monday. Today I'm going to tackle a whole bunch of little things at one time because I'm going to be talking about Mephits. Okay, so a lot of times DMs like the idea of using elementals, but the elementals they use are so powerful and so deadly that it usually doesn't go well for the party. That's where we get to the Mephit. So Mephits are a great little creature that you could throw at low-level parties, or you could scale them up as you needed, whether you're scaling up the quantity of them or giving them more buff hit points or different abilities just to throw a curveball to your players. I think if you, as a DM, threw a bunch of Mephits at like a high-level party, they would probably laugh. They'd be like, what? What is this? We'll squash all these. And that's where you scale them and mess with them and give them different resistances so that your party is thrown for a little loop. But before we go into my variations and my techniques for how to use Mephits, let's see what the book has to say. So if you're following along in your monster manual, I am on page 215. Mephits are capricious, imp-like creatures, native to the elemental planes. They come in 6 varieties, each one representing the mixture of 2 elements. Ageless tricksters, Mephits gather in large numbers on the elemental planes and in the elemental chaos. They also find their way to the material plane, where they prefer to dwell in places where their base elements are abundant. For example, a Magma Mephit is composed of earth and fire, and it favors volcanic layers, while an Ice Mephit, which is composed of air and water, favors frigid locales. So guys, right there, we are given all the climates and destinations in which you could throw these creatures. Boom, right off the bat. You're planning a dungeon dive or cavern crawl that might be linking up with a volcano, you could throw in that little magma guy. You're planning a frozen tundra, cold environment thing, you could use the Ice Mephit. So right off the bat, we have a lot of different ways where these little guys can randomly pop up and surprise a party, causing mischief. We'll talk about mischief in a minute. So their elemental nature, and this applies to all the Mephits. A Mephit doesn't require food, drink, or sleep. Now, I think I've reviewed quite a number of creatures that don't require food, drink, or sleep. And I think sometimes we think about that and we're like, that doesn't really matter. But it can matter. It can matter if the party themselves is running out of food and drink, or the party themselves is in dire need of a short rest or a long rest, but they keep getting interrupted by these pesky little Mephits. So I think that's kind of a cool thing for you as a DM to think about. How do you take advantage of this rather abundant component of these elemental natures and really think about like how as tricksters they can continuously disrupt and eventually weaken a party? So let's talk about them in order that we have in the book. Dust Mephit is composed of earth and air. Dust Mephits are drawn to catacombs and find death morbidly fascinating. Where do you put a Dust Mephit in? Catacombs, caverns, caves, mines, dungeons, underneath ruins, just around ruins, cemeteries, you name it. Anywhere where you would think of putting like an undead, you could probably put a Dust Mephit into the mix. Ice Mephits are air and water. They are aloof and cold, surpassing all other Mephits in pitiless cruelty. I like that. We'll talk about how to implement them. So Dust Mephits and Ice Mephits are both considered challenge rating 1/2. They don't have huge ACs or hit points. The Dust Mephit is vulnerable to fire, but it has immunity to poison, 60 feet of dark vision. They have what's called a death burst. When the Mephit dies, it explodes in a burst of dust. Each creature within 5 feet of it must then succeed on a DC 10 con save or be blinded for 1 minute. A blinded creature can repeat the saving throw on each of its turns, ending the effect on itself in a success. So imagine you have a bunch of these things, and the party's just wailing on them and killing them, but every time they pop, and now they have to make saves against blindness. And anybody who's blinded, any race and class combination that's blinded, is in a condition that is very inconvenient to be in while in combat. Innate spellcasting. The Mephit can innately cast Sleep, requiring no material components. This is a once per day. Its innate spellcasting ability is Charisma. It has claw attacks, and then it has blinding breath. The Mephit exhales a 15-foot cone of blinding dust. Each creature in that area must succeed on a DC 10 dex save or be blinded for 1 minute. All right, so right off the bat, this is a kind of creature that you could throw one or more at, even at a low-level party. Are they going to kill the low-level party? Probably not. Will they make for an interesting encounter? Absolutely. For an ongoing adventure situation, you could have a bunch of these little Mephits living in whatever locale your adventure is set in, and instead of just all at once attacking and then you never see any more, have them be like denizens of that locale where your adventure is set. So the party runs across maybe one or two of them in one room, and then a few encounters down the line, they run across more of them. And then maybe when they go to take a short rest and they secured a room, out from the corners come these dust Mephits. So you could have them kind of be these agitating, repeated encounters throughout an adventure session that make it a little more challenging. Ice Mephits, they have kind of similar things. They have a death burst, only it's a cold effect. They have a false appearance. While the Mephit remains motionless, it's indistinguishable from an ordinary shard of ice. They have innate spellcasting of Fog Cloud, and then they have a Frost Breath. So these creatures are not super powerful. They don't have a ton of hit points, but they're definitely powerful enough to challenge a low-level party. And I think even, like I said, at mid-level, you could tweak them, give them max hit points. You could give them, maybe a stronger attack form or a higher armor class to make them scaled for mid-level. Then we have Magma and Mud Mephits. Magma Mephits are composed of earth and fire. They glow a dull red color as they perspire beads of molten lava, and they're slow to comprehend the meaning of others' words and actions. So they have a vulnerability to cold. All this makes basic common sense. If they're based out of like fire and earth, then their vulnerability is going to be cold. The Mud Mephit has damage immunity to poison. It doesn't have any vulnerabilities. When we look at their attacks, both of them have that death burst, but with different effects. The Magma Death Burst is a fire damage attack. The Mud Mephit does a burst of sticky mud, and if you fail the save, you're restrained. So now I try to imagine, like, is there a way to use a Mud Mephit in conjunction with a Magma Mephit? Probably. You could have an underground cavern that's connected to a volcano, and maybe there's an area where the lava flow seeps over near like an underground lake. I don't know, something like that. So maybe now you have two different creatures with two different kinds of defenses and attacks, working in conjunction or just with a common enemy, and that common enemy would be the party. The Magma Mephit and the Mud Mephit both have false appearance. They both have claw attacks and breath weapons. Finally, that brings us to the Smoke and Steam Mephits. So the Smoke Mephit Smoke Mephits are crude, lazy creatures of air and fire that billow smoke constantly. They rarely speak the truth and love to mock and mislead other creatures. They have the Death Burst. When they do a Death Burst, everything is heavily obscured. They have innate spellcasting. They have Cinder Breath, which is a dex save or you're blinded. The Steam Mephit has similar situations here, Death Burst, and that's fire damage. And then Steam Breath, when they exhale that is fire damage. So not hugely deadly. None of these creatures really are. Of all the Mephits, the only one that's really rated slightly higher than any of the other ones is the Magma Mephit. They're considered a half challenge rating. Actually, sorry, Dust, Ice, and Magma are all considered half challenge ratings. So what you can do is take a look at these Mephits on your own time and think to yourself, where's my adventure going to be set? How could I take a few of these Mephit creatures based on the party's level and integrate them in a way that could be interesting? So obviously, combat encounters makes it real fun because they have certain damage immunities, because they have certain attacks that are sort of special. But I think in the initial description, they are tricksters. As a lot, they tend to be tricksters. So maybe trying to, introduce them right with like, roll initiative, you're attacked by Mephits. Maybe it's more like a thievery thing. Like maybe they like to steal from the party initially, taking, the wizard's book or taking, a weapon while someone's on their sleep, and you have them trying to kind of gradually chip away at the party. And maybe there are some kind of like ambush attacks and then the Mephits retreat and leave. And the party's confused about what to do. They leave, they try to find another place to have a rest, and the Mephits kind of keep bugging them. Until you get to the point where, 24 hours has passed, the party has not had a chance to do a short or long rest, and now they have exhaustion on top of whatever, conditions they're fighting in against these Mephits. You can easily add more quantity to the Mephits to make them more of a challenge for a mid-level party. If you had a group of people from 6th to 9th level and they were in a long scenario, whether it's a dungeon crawl, caverns, or out in the open, maybe they're exploring some ruins of a civilization, and these Mephits from these different areas are attacking them, maybe that's another way to kind of make things a little more challenging for a mid-level party, because they're not necessarily a threat to their survival, but they make the party weaker, and then maybe more powerful elementals or more powerful creatures can come in to be a greater challenge. I think when I'm looking through this, the one that I'm drawn to the most is actually the Smoke Mephit, not because it's powerful, but because I kind of like that they're kind of like liars and they're sort of lazy. And I could see a Smoke Mephit really bluffing a party, especially a party that isn't sure what it is. You don't have to describe this as a Mephit. You could describe the monster without saying, oh, this is a Smoke Mephit. Because if you describe it, the party might even think that it's some kind of a demon or some other elemental and be a little more wary of it. And the Smoke Mephit, being sort of a deceitful creature, might just play right into that and might, make claims that it has access to stronger magic than it actually does. And in so doing, you could toy with the party. This Mephit, almost like a sentient NPC, could, tell the party that they have to go recover the very important magical, jade idol of Kazam. And, and then they go through all this stuff to get this idol that the Smoke Mephit never could have gotten. They deliver it, and, maybe the Smoke Mephit takes the idol and doesn't give them whatever treasure he was going to promise, and he leaves. I don't know, something. But, you can, in other words, you could use some social manipulation with some of these tricky Mephits, as well as just combat situations. And I think they're cool little creatures. And again, sometimes when we think about using elementals, the bigger elementals are not, they're the kind of thing that would just totally TPK a lower level party. But here you have access to a bunch of weaker elementals who can still be fun and provide a lot of challenging social interaction, combat interaction, and just kind of strategic thinking by the party. Like, how do we escape these annoying, pesky, antagonizing creatures so that we can just get a short rest and heal up and regain some of our spells, and they're constantly getting barraged, like attacked by these little creatures and annoyed by these little creatures. So that's the Mephit. There are 6 of them to choose from in this monster manual, and I think because of their composition, you could drop them into almost any game setting. Literally almost any game setting, you could pick one or more of these depending on how you tweak it and the locale that your adventure is set in. So I hope you guys found this enjoyable. If you have encountered Mephits as a player or you've used them as a DM, please comment below and share with the community your experiences dealing with the Mephits. If you have any requests for future Monster Mondays, also leave those requests in the comments below. And thank you, as always, you guys, for liking, subscribing, supporting the channel, spreading the word. We'll see you next time.